Warwickshire County Council Cabinet meeting today, yet another virtual meeting. Seems quite a long time ago since we all actually met, but thank you for attending. I'm hoping that we've got all Cabinet members here. I'll hopefully ask Monica just to check that out whilst I introduce. Apologies, first of all, and thank you, Helen, for noting that Dave Parsons will be sending his apologies. Are there any more apologies, please?
I haven't received any, Chair.
No, and I'm not expecting any either. So we can move on to the minutes of the previous meeting. Those are on page 5 to 8, and in normal circumstances, if we were meeting, I would go through them page by page, but it's somewhat tricky. So I'm asking you, please, if we can agree those minutes of the previous meeting, and if you can raise your hand on the screen now.
Chair, once you have those votes in, can you take declarations, please?
I will do. I'm having a slight spot of bother with my mouse. So can I just ask Monica if that's everyone's voted, have they?
So we're missing Councillor Heather, we're missing Councillor Tim, so you have 8, so that's fine.
That's a majority anyway. So we will agree those minutes then, please. Could I take disclosure of pecuniary or non-pecuniary interest? Andy, are you declaring an interest?
Hand, that's the first of the day, and I will find
sticky hand. Okay, there are no interests declared then, Paul. Just checking in the chat box. I prefer not to use the chat, so thank you. Oh, it's, added Sarah Bode to the meeting. What's that? Is that an apology that we've had?
No, she's just joined.
You can ignore that.
Thank you very much. Right, I will move us on then to public speaking, and I have not been made aware of any public speaking today. That's confirmed. So we move on to the main items on the agenda. The first one is the draft integrated risk management plan. This is, of course, the draft fire service integrated risk management plan, which is for 2020 to 2025. And I'll ask Andy Crump, please. Councillor Crump, can you introduce this paper?
Thank you, Chair. This is the second of 2 important papers from Warwickshire Fire and Rescue. Last Cabinet on the 28th of January, 2 weeks ago, just seems to have flown by. We were talking about Warwickshire Fire and Rescue estate and how it was building in with the council as one estate to ensure we made best use of our assets. We were able to optimise capability, service performance and agile working, and making sure we're able to deliver great services, our priority outcomes to our communities. So that was the assets, and now we're looking at risk. And this is again a major exercise that we do on a regular basis. And we carried out a survey between middle of September to early November, asking about our proposals, what members of the public thought of that. We had, I think it's 163 responses, and I must admit I haven't read all of them, and I apologise for making the papers so weighty, but it was really positive. Again, we've had quite a few reply. The main age range of replies were the 46 to 59, and obviously most of the cabinet fall into that range. So it's obviously people of our age group responded. And we also noted, I think 80% of the respondents were white, 10% didn't give their ethnicity, and 7% were BAME, which I think roughly equates to the same population in Warwickshire. Although nationally, I think the BAME population is around about 14%. In Warwickshire, I think it's around about 7%. So yes, we've sort of met our target on trying to get engagement. But obviously, we would always like more, especially from the BAME community. We are working to do that. And I think it runs on to part of our proposals. And we want to make sure our workforce and ethos reflects the diverse communities we serve. And so again, therefore, it's important that our diverse community responds and we take into account. And I know that we've had several inspections recently from HMIC FRS, the last one being a COVID one. And as part of those inspections, the common theme that's run through is the way that Warwickshire Fire and Rescue responds to its community and engages with its community. We've all seen the video of Betty's 100th birthday, and again, that was a great example of how we interact with our communities. And we've also got Imran, who's a great exponent to improving our diversity and inclusivity. A great chap, and his work's been recognised. He's actually working with other authorities, and again, it's something that in Warwickshire Fire and Rescue we like to do, involve our partners. We need to assess our capabilities to improve our ways of working in response to any future pandemics or crises. And again, that's what all good fire services do, respond, adapt, and again, I think we responded magnificently. So great kudos goes to Mr. Amos and all his team. And again, we need to assess our overall resource capacity to ensure that our personnel and physical assets are in the right place and at the right time to deliver our statutory duties. And again, this is what a forward-thinking or fire authority does. The other proposals are to develop further opportunities to support the wider community health outcomes and help protect social care in NHS. And again, we're already doing some of this work with the hospitals, home, and the safe and well visits, and there's lots of opportunities where we can work with our partners. And I know the Heart team is one of the areas that we're going to be looking at, and I'll be contacting Councillor Capeborn about that. And again, one for Councillor Call, we're going to implement digital solutions to enhance our service delivery. And I don't know whether anybody did see the online version of our consultation. It was excellent. There's some great animation there, and I think, according to Cam, the gentleman involved was called Michael Jackson, and he did an excellent job. As some would say, it was bad. So it was a great performance. It was really well received by the members of the public, and I just recommend this and endorse this great piece of work by Warwickshire Fire and Rescue.
So thank you very much. I'm opening up to those who would like to have an input. Just to remind everyone, this is a draft plan. It will go on to council as well. So it's for recommendations from Cabinet. Jerry, then Keith.
Thank you. Yeah, recognising it's a draft plan and where we're at. Will this, in timescales and associated with decisions and next steps, will it be going through the member working party that's been looking at this particular subject before it arrives at council, just to make sure everything is ironed out and is smooth for the day?
I'll take Keith before I go back to Andy, if that's okay. Keith?
Thank you. It is quite a tree worth of documents, and it's got lots of useful details in there. But what it doesn't give a picture of is what's going to happen over the next couple of years. The consultation asked people about principles, right fire engine in the right place, etc. But there's a lack of detail to know exactly what we're going to get, particularly in the Neaton over the next few years. And there was comments in the press about our second fire engine in the Neaton going to Bedworth. I think that's only a part-time thing, because obviously Bedworth's a retained station, and it has issues with having crewing in the daytime when these retained firefighters are at work. But I do think we need now to actually say what our plans are quite explicitly, so that actually people can comment on.
So Keith, sorry, just to interrupt, that is the role of this is the risk management plan. So that's a different business plan. But I'm sure that will come up. But your point is well made.
And so the two are very well related. The risk profile is really good document. It shows us where all the incidents are and what type of incident they are. So I do hope we have proper consultation on it all joined up effectively, because you ask people about one bit of the plan and then at some point in the future you have another plan. Thank you for that.
Yeah. So Andy, it's back to you.
Yeah, I think it will be able to go to one form of scrutiny, whether it's the assurance group that Councillor Roodhouse mentioned, and again that was the whole point of setting that assurance group up, or whether to an ONS scrutiny. I'll check on the timescales on that, and we'll get back to Councillor Roodhouse on that if he's okay with that. I know that Councillor Condacourt has been involved with. Sorry, it doesn't quite sound right, does it? Has been involved, has been speaking or in negotiations with the Chief Fire Officer, and has received quite a few answers to the questions that he's raised. But rest assured, what we're trying to do is get buy-in and feedback from local residents and stakeholders. And I think, Keith, you asked a similar question last time when we were talking about assets, and I gave you the assurance that local members often know better or know their area better than senior officers who are making decisions. So I gave you that guarantee then that you would be involved, and I think I even asked for ideas about what you think about using the Nuneaton Fire Station, because it is a big site there. I think I remember asking you that. So yeah, that guarantee still stands. But what we will be doing, we will be guided by the evidence, and we've taken some independent advice from ORH, who've done some modelling for us. I bet you never thought you'd hear Andy Crump and modelling in the same sentence, but we've certainly got some evidence where we can make best use of our resources and to be able to respond with our targets. We always know there will be some issues, but whatever we will do, it will be evidence-based, and there will be a lot of consultation and involvement with partners, stakeholders, local residents. So that's my assurance for you, Councillor Condacourt.
So I think that we can move now to the recommendations, which are printed on page 19. You've got, and just to remind everyone, this is recommend that to council. So we've got 3 recommendations as printed. Can I ask if they are agreed, please? That is unanimous. Thank you, Andy, for that. You can pop your hands down now, folks. So item 3 on the agenda is the allocation of the 2021 and 2022 DSG Dedicated Schools Grant, and this is Colin Hayfield and Peter Butlin. And Councillor Hayfield, I'll go to you first.
Thank you, Leader. This is a fairly sort of regular report to us. The government gives us the Dedicated Schools Grant. We hand it out to the Schools Forum along a very prescribed formula. There isn't much scope for variation between that. This sets out very clearly, particularly on 2.2, the headlines, which the various blocks of the DSG and what their relative allocations are, and the Central School Service block, i.e. us, at the bottom, coming up to just under just over 495,000, 100,000. So it's big money. We have very little say. It's a schools forum that deal with it. I wish there was more money for us to allocate out, but we have what we have, and we have to make the best of it. This report shows how we intend to do that. Thank you, Lead.
Thank you very much. And I'm wondering to Peter if you want to add anything to that. If you are.
Yeah, there's not a great deal to add to that. We act as an accounting body here. We say hello to the money, then distribute it back to the schools and pass comment on how much has come into the kind of four different blocks and hand it out. and then we kind of try and kind of recognise where the pressures are going to be afterwards after we've distributed that. But like I say, we are just an accounting body here, and we distribute the money to the schools while recognising some pressures do still exist. So that's all I can possibly say on this one.
Thank you very much. I've got Helen Adkins first.
Hi, Izzy. Thank you for that. We know there are problems with this. I'm not going to go on about it, if you're pleased to know. Just to say that I know it will come to the Cabinet eventually, but we did have a good send, task and finish group, which was really positive, and we developed some strategies in order to scrutinise what's going on in the new inclusion programme. So I know this area is a very difficult area. The funding formula isn't right, but it was nice to work with colleagues and develop some strategies moving forward in relation to the SEND inclusion programme. Thank you.
That's helpful, Helen. Thank you for that. And look forward to hearing that, please. So, oh gosh, just realised my camera's not on. Thank you all. I think we have got no further speakers, so I'm going to move back to Peter. Have you got anything further to add? And then Colin? Nothing from Peter. Colin?
Thank you, Leader. No, nothing really further to add. Helen makes good points about the task and finish group, but as she says, that's a matter for the next Cabinet, I think. So, with your permission, I'll move the recommendations as printed on page 205.
That's fine. Can I ask for those who are in agreement to please raise your hands now?
That's unanimous.
Thank you very much. Great, thank you. Unanimous support for that paper on the DSG. Thank you all, colleagues. And we'll move on to the next item, is item 4, long-term savings for children in care, on page 215. And Councillor Jeff Morgan will introduce this. Jeff.
Thank you. Thank you, Izzy. When I first saw this item on the agenda, I thought, oh no, I thought we'd agreed no more savings, but then I relaxed when I realised this is about helping our looked after children to save up for themselves. Hitherto, we've encouraged our children in care to save by deducting 10% of the foster care allowances according to age band, and the details are in the paper for you to take a look at. Traditionally, this process has only started once a young person has been in our care for 12 months. It's also been more difficult to get foster agencies to open long-term savings accounts on the child's behalf. And in the case of young people who have sadly multiple foster moves, sometimes the savings have got lost completely. The loading of the savings contributions also meant that the build-up in funds increases before they reach 18, providing a tidy cash sum, which can put vulnerable teenagers at increased risk if they've not developed a sense of the value of money. If the young person is vulnerable to exploitation, they can be taken advantage of, financially exploited. Under this system, young people get no chance to access their savings and learn about simple financial management. The new policy is fair and consistent. It's based on £5 per week for all children and young people, and the difference to the age banded money is given to the child weekly as part of their personal allowance. This ensures that siblings receive the same amount of long-term savings if leaving care prior to their 18th birthday, and it's consistent. The other thing is, it will start saving, the long-term savings will start from the day the child or young person comes into care, but it won't go into an account until the child has been in care for 12 months, on which date we will backdate the previous 12-month savings. Foster carers and residential staff will be asked to support young people to open their own short-term savings and save some of their weekly allowance. This will help young people in their financial independence and hopefully teach them about the value of money. No child or young person will be worse off as they reach the same personal allowance in the current and new policies, and therefore will not be receiving any less money. There will be less in their long-term savings, but more available in the present with their personal allowances. This should bring us into line more with other local authorities in the area, provide consistency and fairness, and teach young people about savings and encourage them to manage their money before 18. And it will also protect our young people from financial exploitation at 18 years old. Obviously, we've discussed this with children, with young people themselves, and the Children in Care Council. And here are just a couple of responses of young people themselves. Absolutely brilliant from a 19-year-old. Another one, when I got my long-term savings and I got taken advantage of by my partner and they've all gone and I have nothing to show for it. And I quote, "It's good that it's fair with siblings." And that's really my run through of it. I hope that's clear, and I'm very happy to take any questions. The detail is in the paper as ever.
Thank you very much, Jeff. I have got Helen wanting to ask a question.
Yeah, just a quick question, Jeff. Will it be monitored? Will it be monitored to see how successful it is?
Oh yeah, yes, definitely, because there'll come a point with the funding when we need to look back and see how things have gone, and to make sure that what we hope happens does happen. And the two things that we need to watch are that agency foster carers are making the payments, deducting them at source, and that they're coming from the foster parents as well. We will certainly do that. Thanks for raising that point.
Thanks.
Excellent. I think a very good report, Jeff. Thank you very much. So I think then we can just, I've got nobody else. Shall we?
Well, can I ask that Cabinet agree the changes to the long-term savings policy, please?
Yeah, so hands up now. And
there's one missing.
Is there? I don't know quite why there's one missing, because I can see everyone's hands are up.
Is it Cam? No,
is
it's
it?
Andy.
Andy Crump.
Oh, is it Andy?
That's fine.
Yeah, we will go with the majority vote. Thank you very much for that, Cabinet members. Right, we can pop our hands down, and we will move on to the last item in the public papers, which is the whoopsie, let me just get to it, which is the Warwickshire Recovery and Investment Fund. This is on page 243, and it will be for Councillor Peter Butland to introduce, please.
Thank you, Chair. A few days ago we set the budget, and I made reference to RIF as part of our recovery plan in terms of where we're going with the money in terms of making the recovery of the economy of Warwickshire as a result of the COVID crisis. Despite furlough and various other things, unemployment in Warwickshire has gone very high, and is likely to kind of peak at somewhere around 30,000 people losing a job as a result of the COVID crisis. We are now in probably the worst recession in 300 years. In terms of kind of reductions in GVA and economy, etc., it's almost unprecedented. The question mark is whether we step into the market and help people and businesses access money for their recovery. Some people have kind of criticised us for saying, well, this is the job of the banks and various other people. But I took view, and if you read on page 251, there's a report back there, and it says, this builds on research previously undertaken by Warwickshire County Council around the lack of availability of finance for businesses in the county, and the findings from the Midlands Engine Independent Economic Review, which found that access to finance was a major barrier to growth for businesses in this region. Now, that was before COVID struck, and I remember I did a major piece of work with the CWLEP about finance for businesses, and having to kind of seek and get it back from London every time it disappears back down there again. So this is something where we are stepping in to basically kind of keep jobs, kind of job creation activity going on in Warwickshire. It is predicted that as a result of that, we could save 4,000 jobs and create 2,200 other jobs in the projections put forward to us in this paper, which was put together by an independent consultancy firm, 3110. So there's an awful lot of work being done on this one to kind of make the case. That said, the Monetary Policy Committee also said in its February report the outlook for the economy remains unusually uncertain. It depends on the evolution of the pandemic, measures taken to protect public health, and how households, businesses and financial markets respond to these developments. Now, we're looking, due to the COVID crisis and also the vaccines coming in, everybody thought it was a bright spot kind of into the horizon, and the end is due. But yesterday, the government basically kind of played back on some of those kind of bright spots and started to kind of look in terms of kind of extended furloughs and lockdowns. This is not a message that Warwickshire wants to hear, and it's certainly not a message that the public want to hear. But we can step in and give a bright spot for business in Warwickshire by doing this RIF report. And I think saving 4,000 jobs and putting 2,200 extra jobs into the market is taking the lead. And I've got the support from CWLEP, Chamber of Commerce, and various other bodies who are keen to engage with us on what we're doing here. It's not unprecedented. Other authorities have done it on a smaller scale. We're taking it up a league, and we think we can kind of make a significant contribution to the reduction and recovery of Warwickshire as a result. In terms of the kind of the making the case, we looked at the economic case, the strategic case, the commercial case, the financial case, and the management case. And as a result of those findings, the ability to deliver it kind of delivered on all the things that we want to do in the county. The ability of the council's strategic objectives, the ability to support Warwickshire's post-COVID economic recovery in a targeted way, the ability to support businesses, social enterprises, and create jobs. And it has the ability to generate financial returns that, as a minimum, cover costs and provide a small return across the whole fund. And what other things do we get from this? It stimulates and accelerates economic growth and recovery by filling identifiable gaps and demand for finances by business, drive growth and productivity gains, unlock and secure new and additional private sector investment, generate a direct positive net return on value invested, create new jobs in the county and safeguard thousands more. Increase the attractiveness of Warwickshire as a new inward investment and business relocation, and safeguard and increase business rates and council tax base. And on that final item, unemployed people do not pay council tax, so it's as good as it's good socially, and it's as good for us as well. So, and finally, this has been fully tested. We've got 3 different funds. And some people are worried about default measurements. Now, the 3 different funds, the kind of the riskier element of our lending only kind of occurs in the £10 million fund, and that has been stress tested to the effect that it has no significant effect in terms of our ability to get our money back and deliver a proper services and lending service to the county, businesses in the county. So it has been stress tested and effectively looked at to minimise our risks. And on that premise, I'm willing to answer questions.
Peter, thank you very much. I've got a number of hands which I will go to, but I will take the chair's prerogative which is I just want to say I think that this has been developed with our officers, and it's had a really strong process that it's gone through. I believe it's never more needed. As you identified, it is a time when we need to support our businesses, when we need to look to the future to make sure that what we do within Warwickshire is create that environment that we had before COVID came along, which was the environment to encourage business, to know that we are a business-friendly place to come, to invest and to grow jobs. That has always been the ambition of this administration, and this is absolutely adhering to those same principles. And I think we are clearly on the path to try to help our businesses to recover, and by doing so, give people good jobs in Warwickshire. And you know, my view is the best that we can offer our residents is the ability to have a good job and a future that they can determine themselves. So with further ado, I will now move to Jerry Roodhouse, followed by Keith Condacor, Jeff Morgan and Heather. Jerry.
Thank you, Izzy. Yeah, no, I'm supportive of the moves here, and can I thank the officers and the team there who've done a massive amount of work, as we can tell by the thickness of the report and the amount of trees and other paper that was produced in this electronic age, Cam. So
thank goodness for computers.
But yeah, no, I'm supportive of the moves here, and as you say, I think we should use the power of the local authority to help and support where we can, and I think that's one of the new ways that local government and local authorities can do things, and we should welcome that. Just a point on the governance, which I raised with Rob and others. We have yet another member oversight board being proposed. So this is number 2, because we have the property development one. And it just seems sensible to me, or pragmatic, that perhaps that should be taken offline, really, and debated how they're going to be supported and how they're going to actually be involved in this, because you're potentially looking at probably the same people being involved around the whole circuit of this. And it seems to me must be a way of probably creating one good quality member oversight board with the support that's needed, with all the correct legal implications for people don't go across from one side to the other. But I think that would probably make sense to me, and I have mentioned it to Rob and to others as well. So I'm hoping that sort of thing would find favour with the cabinet as well, going forward, because otherwise we're just duplicating and of course putting extra work onto democratic services and extra work elsewhere, rather than just trying to manage that situation.
Thank you, Jerry. Yes, Keith, then Jeff Morgan, then Heather.
Thank you. Yeah, the officers gave a very good briefing to us the other day, which was most helpful, but also raised lots of questions. Coming on from Jerry, we talked about oversight. I think it would be useful if that oversight board had a small pot of money, or an officer or someone who could actually give them more of a technical devil's advocate view, effectively, to actually help it work effectively. If we're talking about 140 million, just having a few councillors with very little financial experience at such complicated things means it won't get as good an oversight as it should. Whereas if it's like a pension board or something where we realise how much money is involved, and we actually give some officer time and stuff to scrutiny, I think it'll be really good. And that way the members on that scrutiny board can actually have the challenge of in terms of funds themselves. The first 2 funds look marvellous. Obviously, in terms of investment decisions, we need to be robust and not have rose-tinted spectacles on when everyone comes asking for money, because it's important we get the right one saved. We don't want to be putting money in that's lost. But the third one I'm really concerned about, this property and infrastructure. It's a long-term thing, and it could, in the worst case, be building lots of sheds on countryside with lots of roads. Whereas on the other hand, it could be regenerating places like the Neaton Town Centre or the old Peugeot car factory sites that have now become redundant. So I do think we need to actually work out what property and what infrastructure we're looking at, and whether it is just growing more destruction of the countryside. And on the detailed paper, it's quite interesting, the SQW report, because it actually gives some forecasts of GVA and employment, etc. And if you look on page 402 of your report, you get a nice table of what they think is going to happen in Warwickshire over 6 years. And it totally fails to recognise that the population of Warwickshire goes up and down with how many jobs we've got, particularly sort of jobs in recreation, hospitality. A lot of those jobs, people come into the country to work in Warwickshire, and when those jobs disappear, they leave. So in terms of focusing on jobs, we need to actually be looking at the jobs for the existing population, not creating a job that will create effectively someone else coming in and not saving the original population's problem. So yeah, I really do hope we look at the whole dynamics. Thank you, Chair.
I think you make a point which I would actually challenge back to you. I think many of those people who are starting up in those hospitality jobs that you identify are within our communities. They're very often the first job that they go into. They learn about it and they start to expand as well. And when they do move on to a more long-term job or career, they're filled by the next generation moving in. My own son was exactly one of those, and I'm sure every one of us could tell a story about friends, children, or others that we have. Let's all be real about actually how the tide of time moves children and young people in and out of those careers. Jeff, to you.
Thank you, Izzy. I think this is an excellent project. I really, really support this. It's a great idea. I was reading something in the Daily Telegraph yesterday, I think it was. The average amount of startup funding that goes to businesses in London is 5 times that which goes to startups in the Midlands and the North. The average for a startup company in London was $1 million, 200,000 access to capital for companies in the North and the Midlands. And we've got to break that. So I'm really, really pleased. And I'm very able to support this this project. I'd just like to ask Peter one question, and that is, free marketeer that I am, I do hope that there will be some consideration given to applications from parts of the county where the GVA has traditionally been less. I mean, obviously, I'm thinking of the North Warwickshire and the Neaton and Medworth. There's nothing wrong with the ideas. There's nothing wrong with the people. Obviously, QED. But I would like some consideration given to any applications that come from those areas. Thank you very much, Peter, for bringing this to us.
Absolutely. Thank you, Jeff. I'm sure he'll come back to you. Peter, are you okay if I take 2 more?
Yeah, go on.
Yeah.
I'm taking
Thank
notes.
you. Heather, Tim's next, and then Helen.
Thank you, Chair. I likewise really do welcome this report and setting out on this road to put together the Warwickshire Recovery Investment Fund. I know that tourism employs over 20,000 people within Warwickshire, and we have some opportunities coming along on the horizon with the Coventry City of Culture and the Commonwealth Games. We also know this is a sector that's been particularly badly hit through COVID, and while we may not get the international visitors that we were thinking of, I am sure there's an opportunity in a staycation world to really take tourism forward, and this investment fund will be able to help that move. Our restaurants, our bars, our tourist attractions, the culture and leisure facilities throughout Warwickshire are great, and they're also critical to supporting communities. So we need to see them lift off.
Thank you, Heather. Absolutely, we do. Very timely with the City of Culture as well. Helen.
Thanks, Izzy. Yeah, thanks for this report. I welcome this report. I had a really good briefing from Rob and Richard. I think it was yesterday, but all the days seem to merge into one, so I can't remember which day it was. I raised a couple of points with him, so I won't repeat all of them today, but just to say, I think it's a great opportunity for us to be able to invest in some businesses that connect to the issues that are really important to us now, such as climate and health and well-being, and also to support apprenticeships. So yeah, I welcome it overall. Thank you.
That's all, I think. I'm just waiting to see if anyone else wants to come in, but they don't. They don't, Peter. So I'm going to pass back to you for summing up, please.
Thank you, Chair. First one, I'll point Jerry at recommendation number 4. Further details will be coming forward later, which probably after the election. Hopefully we'll get most of it done before the election, but in terms of the final details on governance and the business plans for this. So a lot of those details that Jerry was alluding to will come out of that one as well. So, but I take on board everything you've just said, and I kind of agree to some aspects of what you've just said as well. Keith, the oversight, I think it comes back to where Jerry was on the last one when we did the Warwickshire property company, and that's training for people on oversight. And as I agreed with Jerry, we will provide some training so as people can understand finances and lending criteria when they do oversight on this one. So yes, there will be training for that. Property and infrastructure, it concerns from Keith. A lot of things, this will also come back into the property development company because we are kind of reworking and reusing a lot of our redundant places of work and repurposing them. So that we will not be kind of concreting, well, hopefully we'll not be concreting in vast proportions of Warwickshire as a result of these investments. It's repurposing what we already have where we can, and we will point in them, it'll be mostly office space, I'm sure, kind of into that direction. And we'll also be involved through the property company in kind of providing space for new businesses, and generally it was the small industrial units that was of a shortage in Warwickshire before COVID, and I hope to be bridging the gap through the property company as well. And it's through the finances that we'll be pointing people at that and giving them more opportunities. Population growth in an area is generally driven by economics, and the more economically powerful you are as a region, the more your population will grow. That's it's well founded in history. Anybody that's studied history at all will notice people will go where the work is. So it's not although we'd like to kind of it's through skills and education that we create the job opportunities for the people that already live here. But a successful business and a successful economy will always attract people from outside. And we're sending a message out to the rest of the country that Warwickshire is a place to do business, and we will support you. So I want that growth, and I want that growth in Warwickshire. Jeff, I'm kind of more keen than probably you understand. I'd like to see Nuneaton catch up. It's kind of growing faster, or was before the COVID, than the rest of the county, but it was kind of it was growing from a lower base level. We've got to keep that growth going, and we'll kind of where we can push those opportunities to Nuneaton, and that's in combined with all the other projects that are going on in Nuneaton, kind of the town centre development, etc. And we've been pushing a lot of money into Nuneaton to kind of get them to catch up with the rest of the county. Youth employment is one of those aspects, and I didn't mention that when I mentioned unemployment. The biggest section of this one, and the worst part of it on unemployment, youth generally get kind of caught out the worst. they're generally the last, the first ones, the last ones in, and they're always the first ones out when unemployment bites. So it's as much for youth and getting them back into work, and also creating those job opportunities for school leavers and university leavers. And we don't do that unless we've got kind of necessary finance to kind of create these businesses. Helen, the one word you used was apprentices, and there was a report out this last week saying that apprentices have kind of not being promoted as much as they should be, and some people are now kind of in the report saying apprentices kind of create a better way through work than sometimes the universities do. So I'm very keen on apprenticeships, and I would like to see them expanded going forward. I think I've answered all the questions now, and on the basis of that, and hopefully your support, I'd kind of recommend on page 243, the recommendation is 1 to 4.
You're on mute, Izzy.
Right, we'll just go straight to the vote, and we're voting now.
That's it.
That's it. Unanimous support, and I have to say, a fantastic innovation. This is extremely exciting and a real step for the businesses to recover. And for me, the benefit has to be the social benefit that we give our communities, our business communities, but our residents, those jobs that should be out there. And for younger people, those apprenticeships that we can help to shape within this. Very exciting, Peter. Thank you so much for bringing it. And thanks to the officers for helping us in develop this. Great. Thank you very much. Hands down. We can now move into the private part of the business. I'm trying to find the private part of the business. It's just for the minutes from the last meeting. So I have to go through the words that members of the public be excluded from the meeting for the items mentioned below on the grounds that their presence would involve the disclosure of exempt information as defined in paragraph 3 of part 1 of schedule 12A of the Local Government Act 1972. Can we agree that?
Agreed.
Yeah, agreed. Thank you very much. So when I know that we are clear to go, I will.
It's stopped. You're fine.
Thank you. Right.